Got everything? Yes, we are.
How's our hair look?
Huh?
How's our hair look?
Hair looks good, I think.
I fucking have like fucking mohawk.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. Yeah. I think we're good. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Not For Nothing. I am Joe Capobianco, and I am joined today by a fella who has done a guest spot with us this past week. He came up from Florida. Everybody fucking knows who he is, but I'll let you introduce yourself anyways.
Jime Litwalk, based in Orlando, Florida right now, but hopefully starting to travel a lot more and making my way back up here and work with the guys here at Hope.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to you coming up here more often.
Yeah, it's. I think we'll probably even touch base on this a little bit. Is the state of how tattooing is going, but I feel like my kids are a little bit more older now, and I'm gonna start doing a little bit more traveling. Maybe not so much with conventions, but I think what I'm gonna do is start going around and just visiting, hanging out with friends more, and just making my way back up here. It's when you find yourself surrounded by people who inspire you, it kind of gets you out of that funk. I feel more creative again. I feel like my mind and my thought process is going to a lot more positive, and just actually enjoying tattooing again, instead of seeing where like half of the state of the so-called industry is, or craft is. I find it now, when you're hanging around people like that, you really bring back the things that you really were passionate about.
I think that's a it's a really good way of putting it, because of the way things are in the current times. You know what I mean? You would think that you would have more time to create and to actually do something, because you're not tattooing all the time. But I think and this isn't for every artist, obviously, but for me, I know I saw it affect you. The less busy you are as a tattooer, the less it seems for me personally that I put stress on creating on paper and pencil and everything else. And I know in the back of my mind that that's something I need to do. But what I've been feeling, and it's probably a bit of depression for the most part, is the lack of people being interested in my tattooing. It's affecting how I feel about tattooing and art in general. And I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to do anything right now. And I know that's a really bad way of thinking, but I think what people need to understand is that's a hard thing to get over. Which you can't just say, oh no, you just need to draw more and flip a switch and you're drawing.
Well, I think I'm just going to speak for honesty from me, and it's just how I feel about it, and just putting it out there, and I'm sure there's other artists maybe from our era before, or even some younger generation that might be able to actually relate to this. But the fire that I once had when I started, it was just about creating, and it was just, there was this like immense thing where I didn't look like I had to sit down and draw something, or I had to sit down and paint something, or I sit down and draw a flash or anything like that. It was a part of my routine.
Yeah.
And then when you develop yourself kind of like a name, or you hone yourself in on a certain style, it's like you can only try to keep doing the same thing so many different ways.
Right.
And after a while, it's like, man, how can I do this same tattoo but different? How can I do this same thing but a little slightly different? And after a while, like, you find yourself with kind of almost like this mental roadblock of like, dude, I've done this thing like 1,001 times. And then you add that into like feeling like your creativity is kind of like dwindling. So you're more, your mindset goes focusing on like, well, shit, I can't be creative no more. And then, things will slow down. And I don't think it's like one massive thing. I think it's a lot of little bitty things piled up,
right,
that starts to kind of like overwhelm you.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people, when you talk to, many different artists, older, younger, whatever, they're going to be the ones to say, well, man, try to start painting, try to use oil paints, try to use acrylics, try to, you can't stop learning. And I agree with that. I fully agree with that mentality and that thought pattern. I think the hardest part is getting over that initial hump of doing it. Like, I look at Christian, and he's constantly doing something. He's constantly painting, sculpting. He's now got the 3D the 3D printers and stuff like that. Out of most of the people in the shop, and again, I'm not putting down anybody else in my shop. They all are creative in their own way. Eric does a lot of painting at home. We never get to see it. Thank you very much, Eric. But again, they are doing stuff outside of it. I just find myself in a funk now that I'm having a hard time breaking out of, and the lack of tattoo business has made that worse.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we were talking about, like constantly creating. Not everyone's going to be like a Tony Ciavaro, like that. Fuck, he came in, maybe just a couple years after when I started, but to see that guy still producing as much as he does,
non-stop, yeah.
It's insane to have that kind of like. It's almost like that military art mentality to where that dude just does it, Yeah. And I wish that I had that, and for me it comes in waves, but a lot of, mine's just honesty of like, I found myself in a funk because I don't always feel myself surrounded by people who, inspire me, not that I don't have my phone or social media or stuff like that, where it's like, I can still reach out and stuff.
That to me is like a dead.
Yeah, when you're around people in a studio and you're watching them create and, they're watching them do stuff. And nowadays, like when you're in a shop, man, you would like to think it was old school mentality, but, where we're at, especially where I'm at, it's good to have like an eclectic group of people in a studio,
right.
To where it's like, hey, you're offering a different service for people who want different styles that come in there, But again, there was a time to where I remember like certain things where it's like you developed yourself as like a walk-in shop where it's like downtime meant creativity time. It's like you're around people who just want to produce and create, and that becomes inspiring.
Right.
But when you got like a shop to where it's like a younger generation or a lazy generation to where it's like, I've done my 2-hour tattoo for the day, I'm gone, they leave, and you're just left there with emptiness. And you're like, well, shit, dude. And you're like, well, now it's just you. It's like no different than just being at home.
I think that that's true, and that's where I think you have to find that internal fortitude to do it on your own. I mean, Christian's constantly trying to bring people into the shop. We do this. If anybody hasn't seen it, we've been doing this power pencil thing. You took part in it on what was it, Wednesday?
Yeah,
Thursday,
but your shop here, though. I mean, look at the. I mean, you got beasts that work here, man. Like everyone here is so creative in a different genre, but it's like everyone's always producing something.
Yeah.
So you might not always sit down and draw it, but when they bring it in, you're like, holy shit, when did you do that? Like, I've been working on it. Here's what it is. Not all these are going to be shops are going to be built like this, and it's not saying that they all need to be, but I think what it is that I have to take it upon myself to like, hey, I got to kick myself in the ass. Like, look, man, clearly it's not going to be, you got to do something different.
Yeah.
So I felt like, hey, I've been trying to like get out a little bit more, trying to travel a little bit more. I want to do a lot more smaller conventions to where I can be around other, friends and stuff like that to get inspired again, because I feel like that's the only way it's going to happen. Like leaving after this, been up here for this week, it's like I feel like recharged, man. I feel like, yeah, man, I could actually probably sit down and draw something. I could actually create something. I'll finish a painting.
And it's funny because we didn't have a chance to really, with the exception of that one night with Christian and the power pencil, we didn't really have a chance to sit down and do it. And I was hoping to do more from a creative standpoint, but thank goodness you were busy the whole fucking time.
But
you stayed super busy.
But it's not just that part. It's the camaraderie. It's being around people who just actually it's the shit talking, it's the ball busting, it's the fucking talking old school days, reminiscing. It's the shop, and the new things coming down. Artists that you've brought on the podcast that maybe aren't super familiar with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So hearing a lot of that stuff, it feels like. It's like magazines coming to life again to me,
right,
So it's like I find out like, oh shit, yeah, and then coming around, walk around the shop, and you guys are constantly changing out artwork on the walls, and then walking to the booths and just watching other guys tattoo. It's like that's that kind of like artistic jolt to where it's like that's tattooing to me,
right?
It's like it's not some salon fucking thing to where you put your fucking headphones on. Here's a fucking thing. This is my service. I provide it. Pay me. Get the fuck on. To me, that's not. I mean. There's a place for that. It's just not my place.
It is. It is true. I mean, you go to so many different shops, like the white walls and the no real personality, no individual personality. Like, it's weird to me to go into places like that because, I mean, our front room is kind of like that. I mean, it's covered in art, but it's like it's also. We did want it to have kind of a gallery feel to it, so it's always it could be very interchangeable. There are pockets of the front room, like by the front desk. The bar area where that's pretty much got the personality of the shop. Everything else is made to be, well, this artwork is hanging this month, that artwork will be hanging next month, so it's got to stay kind of neutral to a degree. But shops that are just that are only a neutral shop where, just plug artist in here. I mean, for me personally, I just find that cold and heartless,
But doing that's almost a second job as well, I mean, you add, constantly changing around the shop, and then you add on you also got to be big into social media. If you're not posting every day, you're not creating content every day, it's like you're falling off. It's like there's a lot of things that have to go into, getting yourself out there now, as opposed to how it used to be back in the day.
Right.
It used to be about, hey, I just made tattoos. I try to be a good person. Here's some solid work. I know there's, I got room to grow, but you felt creative and you just kept moving forward, and that's what it was. You had a couple of magazines, you got into a couple of conventions, you did a couple guest spots, world was great, know. Now it's like, you got to sit on your phone for 45 minutes to make a 2-second reel. You got to sit on your phone and find out what days you got to post.
You know what the crazy thing about
stuff like that.
The crazy thing about that too is it's not even. This podcast is a perfect example. It's not even just posting. It's gotta look good. That's I think that's a thing that drives me a little bit crazy, and I think that's why the podcast, this particular podcast, has only grown so far, because of the hands-on look of it. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't have a set. I don't have. I go to other people's places and I interview them in person. And it's a very rough and tumble thing. And I've had people tell me
but there's an authenticity to that. To where there's a point to where it's, when you look at it, it's like you almost feel like a used car salesman. You're like, hey, I'm gonna fucking, it's a shit ass car, but I'm just gonna shiny it up because it's gonna look good. It's like, but there's no soul to it, I like the grittiness. I like the actual purity of when you go into an old school shop, yeah, man, these are fucking paintings that you guys did and friends did. This is like a shop. When you go to other people's places, you look around, you're like, nah, man, this looks like a dentist office, lobby. Where's the artwork? And you sit in that stuff. And to me, that's where it's like, that's the good shit. And I understand, the podcast is here, but you're doing this because it's like, you still can bring something from the old days, evolve it, to where it's like a younger generation could appreciate where we're coming from, and it's not listening to oh, you're gatekeeping, you're just grumpy old man. You're like, no, I'm just trying to help you guys understand of how do you keep growing and keeping a tradition and passion still alive, as opposed to being some fucking watered down fucking stamp dot tattooer, to where it's like there's no soul. Again, there's a technique to it, but when you look at it, you're like, that's your thing, and it's fine.
You just don't care.
That's not the market I give a shit about. It's like looking at cars, hey, I can appreciate some, $250,000 sports car. No fucking reason for me to own that shit. I'm never gonna fucking want to drive it. Yeah, it's a cool car, whatever. I don't give a fuck. I want that fucking, this is a fucking old ass fucking square body fucking thing that's just been lasting forever, made out of fucking steel. It's got fucking dents, dings, and fucking, patinaed like a motherfucker. To me, that's tattooing, look at that shit, dude, you're surviving. Yeah, you're fucking, you got bumps and bruises and fucking, dents and everything else, but you're fucking still here fucking trucking along. I like that, that's the thing I find. Hell yeah, dude. Prove that you can still fucking have worth, still, act like you have something instead of some fucking plastic thing that just sits there.
I think what we're seeing is, and that's what I was saying before about everything having to be polished, you know what I mean? I think that there is an audience for the not polished, for the not for nothing kind of podcast, or for the way we used to take photographs of stuff, for the shops that we're in. There's an audience for it. I just think that audience isn't as active and isn't out there as much as the younger audience, which just wants polish, which wants the bells and whistles, which wants to drive around the fancy car. I mean, look at the way that a lot of the artists are making headway amongst their fans by showing off the fucking fancy car. I don't know if they own that fucking car. I mean, I know a lot of artists that are fucking they're credited out to the fucking to the teeth, but they're putting on this persona that people want to be part of, and I think that's what social media has done. It's created an environment that people want to be you.
That's what I think the world has become that. I think it's gotten to a point to where, every craft is, we're a commercial now. It's like you put the supermodel in. Guy takes his shirt off. Jack like a motherfucker. The hot chick come down with the fucking hour-and-a-half glass-shaped body and stuff like that, you know, and it's a 2-second glimpse of a watch.
Yeah.
You're like, I had no idea what the fuck I was watching. Was it a perfume commercial? I have no idea. Where the fuck was that? But that's tattooing now. It's like, you got fucking the guys and girls who are sitting there like, don't justify me or, you know, like, you know, put me in something, you know, it's like, you showed yourself there fucking half fucking naked, everything else, which is fine. You know, you can, but if that's what you're advertising, don't be upset that someone calls out like, well, dude, is this a tattoo page? Are you a tattooer? What is it?
That's the crazy thing about that is because, like, just exactly what you said. Don't be upset when somebody calls you out. But the problem being, it's not just them being upset and the people like them. It's also their audience that gets upset because it's not. It's like, you know, you're just saying like, yeah, dude, we're just not into that, and there should be an audience for this as well, and there is. It's just not as.
I don't have the fucking body. I ain't got the fucking muscles. I ain't got the fucking looks. I ain't got the fucking tits.
It's funny.
I ain't got the fucking rich ass car. It's not me. I don't have it, you know, and I'm not gonna have it, you know. But there's still guys out there. There's like, you know, you look at like Joey Knuckles in Ohio, like sitting there. He's like, nah, man, fucking. He does flash stuff all the time. He's fucking getting guys together. He's like, no, man. We'll keep the tradition alive. It ain't for everybody, but the people who it's for, you're fucking welcome.
Yeah, right.
You know, and it's a thing like we're doing when we go to Ohio, you know, up in Kettering at, you know, our Jonathan's shop, you know, at Anchorhead. We're getting together. There's just a certain thing to where it's like, you know, man, I'm not going to be able to cater to the masses.
Right.
But the foundation and everything that we build, I want it to be solid as fuck.
Right.
And it could still be there. And that's the thing. Instead of us shifting like, hey man, we know change is gonna happen. It's gone way out of our hands. The fucking storm is fucking brewing. You know, it's happened. We're not changing that shit. But we can still focus on like what little fucking bit of energy, what fucking time I got left. Man, you know what? Go hang out with your friends. Fucking get some people together. You know, there is a younger generation that do give a fuck, that do have passion, that still care about like the history of tattooing, that still want to pass along that torch. Like, you know what? Then fucking let that be it. And then let that foundation grow bigger.
Right. And
then let the fucking watered down, fucking commercialized fucking industry, fucking whatever thing, let them do their thing, man. They'll burn out and they'll just be like the next thing. The next fucking commercial is going to come along and they're going to fucking move along. You know?
I think that's what you were saying before about, you know, attending conventions. And, you know, we always did guest spots, but the guest spots were always a little bit more personable. And it was more about going out to dinner, tattooing all day, and just that little bits of camaraderie. Yeah. Conventions way back in the day, when like the first Austin convention that Marcy put on, you know, she had a whole sign painting area where guys could one shot and do all kinds of crazy shit. Now you have, I mean, and not to say that it doesn't exist now. Like, you know, Paul Booth started doing it with his Art Fusion. Derb is continuing that Art Fusion at Hell City. A handful of other shows do a similar thing. I don't think they put it on the stage that Derb does, you know what I mean? Because Derb, it's actually it's the entertainment part of the show, as well as the creative part. So getting into what we were saying before, the guest spots are more important. That's how I've been looking at it. I've cut back on conventions dramatically because I'm just not as busy at the conventions as I once was. They've gotten more expensive. They've gotten watered the fuck down. Yeah, you know what I mean? And you know, anybody who's been in this business for over 25 years, I'm going to go out on a limb and say are going to agree with what we have, with saying that things are watered down. That conventions are just too much, too often.
And again, and I say this all the time, and it sounds stupid, but it is. Geographically, I think that plays a big part into it. And I understand where some places like conventions, you know, renting a hall or a hotel where it had like a venue downstairs so where you can hold a convention, you know, those don't really exist no more. And when you want to put on a show, it's like those kind of venues don't happen. You either have something that's too small that's not going to hold a lot, or so goddamn big that it's like, dude, you got to flood it, you know, and that kind of waters it down as well. And then the prices go up, you know, with insurance, you know, everything just gets, you know, inflation just keeps growing. So I understand that to a degree. But there are still shows out there that still hold up to where it's like, hey man, I understand that everyone's got to make money. You don't have a promoter sitting there beating everyone over the head, because there is shows now that like promoters don't give an absolute shit. No, you know, about like people come in, they're like, well, look, man, you know, I cleared my nut. I've got enough fucking booths in here. Everything else is just going to be gravy, you know, lying in my pocket, and that's it.
I think what we've seen is, especially with a lot of these promoters, is the fact that they're putting on these conventions, and then they're telling me, like, they're posting up their one thing on their shitty little Instagram or Facebook page, and then they're hoping the artists are going to be the one to really advertise.
Well, we did it ourselves. We looked at it like we used to spit. I remember doing Tattoo Now. It wasn't. For people who don't know, look it up. It was an old website to where most tattooers had built their website from, and that's how everyone got known. There was like forums and
it was
stuff
like early
that.
Ink Nation.
And then when MySpace came out, you had like all the other little things. It was like, oh, this is a free platform that I can just sit there and just advertise on. People were like, well, shit, I can advertise here. This is where everyone's at. Well, I don't have to spend $400 to $700 a month on a website. I'd rather do the free thing. And I think that's how artists are being treated by, promoters. They're like, well, why should I have to spend that much money on billboards? Yeah. You're coming, you advertise for me. Well, the crazy throw it out there. Or we're going to have like, here's this, model, here's this thing, I'm guilty of it as well. Like, I did a tattoo show. I was on there. I've been used for that. And it sucks because I'm like, that's not what I hang my hat on. I've never had a fucking Ink Master banner. I've never done any of that shit. I did something because I thought like, well, hey man, let's go on here because I thought it was integrity of showing tattooing. And no, you realize like, no, this is just entertainment, right. But I mean, they host some pretty amazing artists on there that I'm happy about that, maybe they would have never had the opportunity to get out there. But when you look at it as like the marketing standpoint where it's a teeter-totter, there's a give and take to it. It's like, yeah, you brought the right artists in, they are going to advertise. But just because you gave you the money doesn't mean you don't fucking have to still try to help these guys bring people into the door. Right. Where they look at it like, well, no, man, you guys spent the money, you fucking feel the but again, I'm going to reap the benefits of it because they got to pay to get in.
You do have the shows which have become a dime a dozen, like the Villain Art shows, where they do advertise the living fuck out of it, and it pays off for places like Philly. I don't think it pays off for a lot of cities because I know a lot of those shows don't do well.
Geographically, that makes a difference.
But then you'll have something like Jesse Smith putting on the Richmond convention. Richmond was a convention that was steeped in the history of this business because it dated so far back. They brought JD to it a couple of years ago. It brought it back to the old guys to be able to celebrate their their day in the sun. And then the following year, Jesse doubled down and kind of dropped that part of the show and brought in an incredible list of artists, from all over the fucking country. A lot of people from Canada. A lot of them were Ink Masters, you know what I mean? And not for nothing, they were popular artists for Ink Master, which was another feather in his cap. But to his credit, he also advertised the living fuck out of that show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the fact is, it does exist. I just think that most people are not doing it. And then we're dealing with the bullshit with, who puts on a convention, collects all the fucking money, and then fucks off and disappears, or does a half-assed job setting up. We saw that a couple of years ago. We're seeing it again. Because the fact is, we're in a situation now where shows should be cutting back. And they're not. They're ramping up. And I think that there's no good way for that to end. So you're going to end up with people that are going to dump down money to be part of a convention, and then the promoter's either going to fuck off or he's going to put on a horrible show.
Well, and again, I think having it, I think there's a very important thing about being able to even a new promoter who wants to get into it, who wants to do something for whatever reason that they're being, to sit there and maybe talk to an old school guy, to talk to someone who put on the shows, who knew how they were successful. And there's not a formula anymore. If there was, we would all try to do it and fix everything, But the thing is that it's just got way out of hand. But it's like one of those things when you find these conventions to where it's like you bring in like this array of like such great talent in there. But sometimes you'll find these shows where it's like, yeah, everybody here is great, but it's the same fucking people that will tattoo one person all weekend because they want to chase a trophy.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, if you have, I'm going to throw a number. So there's 100 people inside of a convention, 100 artists, and every one of them brought their own client that they're tattooing. So what's the point of anyone even coming to the show anymore? No one's going to be able to get tattooed.
Well, again,
So you get there and you're like, well, I get to see these amazing artists. And you're like, oh, can I get tattooed? You're like, no. Well, like, what the fuck was the point of coming here then? It's like you have people that it should be like, yeah, you got talent, but some up and comers, some younger guys, people who sit there and go like, when I go to shows, I book at least 1 to 2 appointments so I know that I cover my costs.
Yeah, exactly.
But I tell people I do walk-ups and they're like, why? You're just not booked? I'm like, well, what fair is it? if I'm going to a show,
there's no
and there's no one come into it, and no one has an opportunity to get tattooed, it's like, well, if I filled up on Friday, it's like, well, at least there's a couple more people that came in that, it could overflow. People can walk around. Hey, you got time. People advertise. They got time. But when you got people who are just sitting there and going, nah, man, this whole show is completely full. Yeah. No one's getting tattooed. And you're like, well, why even bother coming?
I think that was the bitch of what happened at Hell City this past year, because we both come from a school where we never booked before we went to a convention. You took stuff as they walked up. The mentality of the client now changes because everybody books out before they get to the show. So they feel if they don't have a booking with you that they're not going to get in. But with Hell City last year, I only booked 2 appointments, one for Friday, one for Saturday, because that's the way it worked out. And I said to everybody else, I just come up to the booth. I'm going to take a. I did walk-ups on Saturday. I booked somebody on Saturday for Sunday, and I did walk-ups on Sunday. I hoped the same thing was going to happen this past year, and it didn't. I booked. I had one for Friday, one for Saturday, and then Sunday, hoping to pick up some walk-ups. I didn't even book a bigger appointment. It was dead. I mean, I did nothing.
There's an understanding to where also I get to where some people are like, look, man, I don't have the money at home. I'm not as busy. I got to book up, because going to a show nowadays isn't like it used to be. You got back when we started, it wasn't even that long ago. Like I remember just a few years ago, pre-COVID, where you'd still be able to find convention booths for $350, $450, $500. Average price of a booth nowadays, you're looking at between $900 and $1,300.
Yeah,
and you're like, that's just for the booth,
and no breaks on the hotels.
And then there's no more blocks no more. It's like, everyone's got to throw in for an Airbnb, or they got to do this. An average show is going to cost you, damn near almost $4,000 now. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, if you're clearing $4,000, I mean, now there's some people out there, again, the artists who sit there and go, well, that's my day rate. Good for you. But
they're making that money in the first.
Yeah, they're making that. They're fucking doing that thing. But yeah, that's the same thing. They're fucking tattooing that one person all fucking weekend. Well, fucking just do that at home, man. But I get the fact that you got to cover your bills to a certain point. But there has to be some kind of like helpful understanding to where it's like, there's a gamble to like, look, man, if no one's given the opportunity to get a chance to like, the idea is like, why you brought guys in from Japan, why you got guys in from Australia, why you guys got come in from like Miami. You got all these guys coming in because that area has the opportunity to where it's like, here's one big giant new tattoo shop. Yeah. Look at the people inside. This is the echelon where we're supposed to be. Now you got fucking apprentices working the floor. Yeah. But this is like the thing where it's like, you don't have to go there. I'm bringing it to you. Promoter brought it in. It's like looking at bands. Here's your favorite band. Now you can see this festival. Here's a tattoo festival. Like, cool. Now I can, here's an opportunity. If I got to get there early, I can get at least tattooed by one of these people. Right. But when you look at it now and everyone's so full, you're like, dude, I like to, get that thing. But it's like, dude, do I want to spend $65 to get in to buy a fucking, $45 T-shirt and, not get any tattooing? No, and again, you're like, so people don't do it.
People are willing to do that.
But but the thing is, like, they'll go to, travel and stuff like that. But the idea was that people wanted to come in. You bring people in to give everyone the opportunity to where it's like, hey, the overflow is there. People are going to get tattooed, And I get times are hard. Not everyone's got the same kind of, like, spendable income. But it's like, in order for things to kind of get back up, it's like, we got to bring back integrity. Yeah. We got to bring back, and it's not, again, not fucking gatekeeping. It's like holding the line. It's like telling people, like, look, man, if we want to help the industry become a craft again, this is how it was done. That this is where the fruit was really bountiful for everybody. Right. Where the people look at it now, it's such an individual thing. Like, I don't give a fuck about you. I made my fucking $6,000 today. Yeah. Fuck everything else.
There was an awful lot.
No one gives a shit. To where it's like, well, then who's it on? Is it on the promoter or everyone else? Or like, hey, man, if you're going to do a show, understand, like, this is the point of what they were for. Yeah. If you want to come here, put your fucking headphones on, tuck your head down, and not give a fuck about anything, who you benefiting? Who you helping?
I think, the best thing that could happen, honestly, would be a hard reset, where everything just stops. And I know this is never going to happen. Yeah. This is just me.
Ain't no one got a fucking Thanos thumb, it ain't happening.
The fact of the matter is, I think a hard reset would be an amazing thing to happen for the industry and for the business, to bring it back to that craftiness. it's not going to happen. I mean, it's the cat's out the fucking bag. We're kind of fucked from that perspective. But what I do want to say is, even though we're shitting on everything, and it's not intentional because that's just who we are. A and B. When you
there's
find
a difference
yourself
between being honest and being shitty.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not being shitty. I'm just being honest.
Exactly.
You know.
And it's not what we're saying isn't for everybody, obviously. But the fact is, there is an audience for it. But the point being is, we're not. It's not like we've cut ourselves off from everything. We do shows. There are a handful of shows. Like we're getting ready to go to Lenoir, North Carolina, for the Carolina Arts Gathering. Which
Chris Hollyfield,
yeah.
He's been in the game a long time. Like you look at his lineage, the people he came around, and the way he operates, the crew that he has behind him is probably some of the most solid people you'll ever be able to meet.
Yeah.
And it's such a great time. And again, middle of nowhere, geographically, understand it. But he's built something to where it's like, dude, that's a destination. Like, I look forward to it because, again, the camaraderie's there. The friendship is there. The artistic is, it's like all those things that you miss about the old days. And like, look, man, if some people can come here and look and take a page out of this book and understand it, I'm not saying that you have to change, again, what works in one area might not work in another. But if you can understand the integrity that he's built behind it and how the people that he personally invites to it understands, like, hey, man, everyone's like, you got appointments? Like, yeah, I got one this day or this day, but the rest I'm only doing walk-ups. Why? Because the people in this town are here for a reason. They want to come in because they want to get tattooed. That's why we're doing it. And you look at it, it's a small enough show. It's reasonably priced, to stay there, everything. So it's a good time. I'm not saying that doesn't work if you took it in Manhattan. It ain't gonna fucking happen.
It's going to be interesting to see. So having said that, with Chris's, there are other shows that we've done. We've done the State Street show in Tennessee, which is a great one. old school, like similar to Chris's, different location, but same overall vibe. Not quite as homey as far as like everybody cooking for you and stuff like that, but still, it was great. It was a good time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we're getting ready to do the Heritage Show, which is coming up in Roanoke, Virginia.
Look at the guys.
Fingers crossed on that. I've
never done it. It's my first time. But when you look at the guys, so we look, man, like, hey, bring these people out. It's like you want to start to kind of develop the game. I'll give it to the guy from Heritage Show. He's doing it, man. He's putting it out there. He's trying his best to kind of bring it back to like the old days. Yeah. And I respect that. It's like, again, it's a gamble. No one knows what the fuck is going to work anymore.
I think everybody's throwing shit at the wall hoping it sticks.
But the thing is when you look at a lot of there's people that still give a shit. Yeah. There are still people that care. There are still people that still want to see the craft operate within a way that it becomes like bringing back the actual camaraderie that used to exist everywhere in tattooing. You know, now it's a fucking high school lunchroom. Right. It's like, it's so cliquey, it's so spread out. It's like, no, that table only belongs with that table. And again, that's also fine because you know what? I don't want everyone over here. If like that's your thing, you stay the fuck over there.
Well, but the
idea is that you still should be able to have conversation with like, look, this is what we do for a living. We can still talk. Yeah. But when you act like you don't give a shit about tattooing, it's like, I don't give a fuck how the machine's made. I don't give a fuck about how fucking ink is made. I couldn't care who fucking came before me. Don't give me that thing. I just want to do my thing and fucking be done with it. It's like, to me, you're the fucking bandwagon people that fucking jumped on it because you're a fucking art student that fucking figured out like, well, I don't have to paint on canvas. I can make good money just doing this. My thing, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but now here's the flip side of that coin, man. Now you get these cats. They start coming to conventions. They start changing the way conventions are, and us as the old guys are just kind of like, fuck these assholes, man. What the fuck? Get fuck off. You don't belong in the bar. You don't do this. You don't do that. So it's kind of a two-edged sword.
Yeah,
we're our own worst enemies in that sense because we're the ones that ostracize these people for coming in with their different ideas, and now we're pissed off about it because they have a voice, and their voice, because we're dying off. Fact of the matter is, we're dying off. Their voice kind of starts to outweigh our voice. Their voice is now changing the way the business is run. Their voice is changing the way clients think about everything. You know what I mean? So, it's a two-edged sword.
It is, but there's a difference between the image and the product.
Yes.
Okay. they're based on image of like, again, the commercialization of tattooing as opposed to the product and longevity of tattooing. Again, there's a market for both, but doesn't mean you have to agree 100% with that one side.
Right.
You know, I understand. Yes, I need to learn more about social media because that's just as important as the tools that we use to operate every day.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And now, certain areas, some people have to do a little bit more than others. So I'm sure there's going to be some asshole that's like, well, in my town, I don't have to do shit. This is not, well, good for you. You're lucky. You're not experiencing the same as everyone else. I think everyone has a different opinion about that stuff.
I think that's what cracks the shit out of me is the stuff that I've been putting out in the last couple of weeks, only because it's relevant, right? It's been relevant for well over 2 years. But in the last couple of weeks, a good friend of mine just announced he's not going to be tattooing inside of a year unless things change, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of shops closing, whatnot.
That's it, man. So fucking Tom.
The thing is, Tom Strong.
Tom Strong.
So the thing that cracks me is like when you bring this stuff to light, you get some tattooers that get bent out of shape about it, and we shouldn't talk about it, blah, whatever. And then you have the other tattooers, like you said, that are in their little town, that are in their little bubble, that have managed to stay on and stay super relevant and busy. And it cracks. They come back as like, oh, you're just not trying hard enough. A lot of people have been saying that. That's the
dumbest. Well, it's the same people as like. Tom's been in it for over 30 fucking years. Dude's not only tried it, like he's not only moved towns, not shops. Motherfucker went to different countries.
Well, some people would say that that's part of the problem.
Well, is it?
But that's the thing. You're not supposed to live your life.
He's trying his best to, provide for his family and go out there and still make a living at what he was passionate about. And when people are like, well, dude, try harder. You're like, you don't think that fucking crossed his mind to fucking try harder? Like, he's like, no, I've uprooted my fucking family, took them around the world, come back, and I'm trying to do things to fucking still make a living at what I'm really happy about.
Right.
And to have somebody who's like, yeah, your overhead is $800 to fucking live. You live 2 seconds from your fucking your shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your bills aren't the same as his. Yeah. You don't have 9 shops on your block. You might have 2 shops in your fucking town.
Right.
It's not the same. The equivalent of how that pie is split is way different.
Right.
To sit there and, look at it like, well, again, geographically, shit makes a difference. But to sit there and tell someone like Tom, like, dude, try harder. You're like, that's the fucking dumbest thing ever, man.
These are the same. A lot of these people are the same people that are just be like, well, you're stuck in your own style. You don't do this. Somebody today just
dude, most people don't even do their fucking style. It's just... Well, they just do. People are like, dude, all you do is new school. You're like, I hardly ever do new school
anymore. Yeah.
Like, I'll do, like, again, I tell them I'm a fucking tattooer first. Like, I love the style that I made a name for myself, and I'm very blessed that I'm made a career out of doing my thing. But I won't fucking turn down a fucking kanji. I'll fucking do shit that walks in the door. Unless it's like a portrait. I work with guys who are amazing at that shit.
Exactly.
Like, I throw it to them, But I'm not fucking, snubbing my nose or anything because I'm a tattooer. The idea is like, it's a service-provided industry. Your deal is to do a solid fucking tattoo, do it great, and then that's how you build a rapport. Yeah. That's how you build in, clientele. That's how the shop gets known. When people are like, well, dude, change your style. You're like, motherfucker, like, that's your look of it is like, I'm not going to be like, if I post a kanji, you're going to be like, oh, fuck, that's where you're at now? It's like, no, it's just, what the fuck would I post that for? It's just a solid tattoo.
I think that's again part of the problem in the sense that, like, when you do show, like, I take photos of a lot of the tattoos I do. Like, if I do a black and gray Christ head, or if I do a St. Michael, these are things that I don't want to be known for. And there were a lot of them that I just wouldn't post. Yeah. Or I'd show a story just to have it out there and have some kind of content. But now it's gotten to the point that if it's not in the book and people come in and they see it and they see a St. Michael in one guy's book, or they see a St. Michael in somebody else's shop, they're going to gravitate towards that shop because we, as tattooers of that age, where we were known for what we did and we were trying to make a name for ourselves for what we do, we geared our books to that.
Yeah.
But now, because people are so trained to see things in a certain way, if you don't match it, then obviously you're not good.
Yeah.
Because and that's something I've often said. If you stand out today, more than likely people are going to they're not going to pay attention.
No.
Because they want to see what they see. There's a reason why I started using filters on my camera, because if it doesn't have that weird saturation and that fucking
I still
lack
can't
of
do that,
fucking
man.
shine,
I still
whatever, people just scroll past it.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I've been called out by artists, and it's a shame. But again, you do make these changes. Again, I don't want to turn this into a shit show, shit talking episode, because that was not the intention. But to our credit, in our time, we produced a shit ton of art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I almost think we've often said it doesn't pay to be first. No. It doesn't pay to be the one to put the books out first. It doesn't pay to be the one to create the style first. It doesn't pay to be the one to go to a certain area first. Because the fact of the matter is everybody else is just going to come along and go on. Not tooting our own fucking horn, just a little bit. But the fact is, we're trying something now. We're trying something new. We're trying to bring back what we dug about going to conventions back in the day, what we're getting out of doing guest spots today which is sitting with peers and creating amongst our friends and bringing what we do to the table and then bringing what they do to the table and sharing that information. So if anybody didn't know, and I know there's a lot of people that think they missed it because we announced it earlier, but never really went into super details because the fact of the matter is, again, it's us. Three of us, it's Jonathan Fudd, you, myself,
Jonathan Gearheart,
Gearheart, and we're doing this HoeDown in Dayton, and it's at Jonathan's shop in Kettering, Ohio, which is just outside of Dayton, and he's graciously offered his shop up. We're bringing in a bunch of different tattooers. A lot of them are more in the sense of being fans, and we're just going to get together. I'm going to bring my airbrushing equipment. Dave Attinito, if he's able to make it, is going to bring his sign painting equipment, sign painting
Dennis
stuff.
McPhail's coming out.
Yeah, Dennis McPhail is going to come out. Eric Inklin is going to come out. Randy Randerson is threatening to come out. Our friend Jamie Henderson is coming up with some charcoal stuff out of Pennsylvania. So the idea behind this is getting a bunch of us together to basically just end up at one shop for 3 days. And you don't have to come for 3 days. This is open to anybody who wants to come in and chill out. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to be able to partake in every little thing. If there's not enough room, you're just going to have to bear with it. You know what I mean? But the idea is to take a chance, get amongst your peers. We're all going to have merchandise to hopefully sell. And we're all going to have fucking ears and mouths to speak and share our information, share our ideas. Hopefully there'll be some fucking motherfuckers out there who got ideas on social media and that they're willing to share.
No, we have a buddy, Eli, who's coming in. You know, used to be one of Clint's friends. You know, he was an amazing filmmaker. You know, he's going to come out and do some filming and talking. And the dude knows all about like proper lighting, proper being able to have like different angles. That would help out with like maybe some of your social media stuff from an artistic standpoint. The idea is like this was the point where. At conventions, what we liked about it was like after the 4 closed, everyone got in the bar, you had food, you broke bread, you had some drinks, the camaraderie was there, you shared information, you shared ideas, you got inspired. Well, we're taking away the whole busy-ass convention part of it and trying to concentrate on the camaraderie. Like, look, man, everyone's going to be there. If someone wants to know something about something, you ask that person. You sit there and you share it. You build those bridges. Yeah, you know, build something up to it in a friendship to where it's like you met someone new in a different town. That's how you started, guest spots. You come out there, you get inspired. You're like, well, dude, I didn't know that about, sign painting. This guy sign paints as well, aside from being a tattooer. I'll come out there, learn some shit. Right. Here's a guy who also, like, besides tattooing, builds machines. Want to learn a bit more about the things that you use? Here's how you tune it. Maybe this will help you out, operate, efficiently more. Or if you just wanted to know about building machines and mechanics of it, helps that out,
So Eric was talking about this $60 machine thing,
So
right?
Eric Inklin is bringing out, it's like basically a broken down machine. And he's charging you only for the parts. It's $60, and you give him the $60. He hands you all the machine, all taken apart, and you put it together with him. And he sits there and he explains why and the purpose of each piece and does. Like this is what it's for. This is how it operates. This is the sound. You want to do a liner, shader, hybrid. It helps you understand that. And he's not charging you for that. He just wants to hang out, talk machines. Maybe there's something else that comes in and goes, well, maybe try this, or this is what I've done. Here's how I wound coils, or this is the wire that I used.
Yeah, that's,
here's a capacitor that I found. You know, or like, oh, this is how you braze something, or this is how you weld. You know, just different things that will help out to where it's like, yes, you want machine builders there? Come. You want to talk about watercolor painting? You know, spit shading, brushes, ink. We got people, we're just saying, it's an open door thing to just come out and just be inspired again.
Right.
And no one's making money off each other, but you're allowed to bring your stuff. Like, hey, man, you want to bring flash, you want to bring machines, you want to bring paintings. Come, trade shit,
honestly,
sell shit, do
I
that.
think that's a very good way of putting it, is the fact that if you're an artist that's local to the area or wants to come up and meet other artists and stuff, and you do have flash, you do have prints, you do have stuff that you want to trade, this would be the place to do it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, well, let's hope. I mean, again,
it's the first time we're taking a gamble.
This thing up.
Yeah, we're taking a gamble.
I think, you know, one of the reasons I feel good about what we're trying to do is because I'm good friends with Lal Hardy. Lal was part of this tattoo society in outside of London. And the first meeting of this tattoo society took place in, like, I believe the early 80s. I believe it was the early 80s. It might have been the late 70s. I don't remember. But it was the early 80s. And there's still documentation of this event taking place in this pub. And it was just a shit ton of English people that got together at this pub. And they met, I believe, once a year. I'm probably fucking this all up. So you can actually go to Lal Hardy's
it's almost like
Instagram.
The national.
It's like national, but with not as much hubbub. It was just people getting together, all tattooed. Because at that time, there weren't conventions for that kind of stuff, and there was no real place to get together, other than if a couple of guys knew each other and went to a shop together, you know. So these guys did it. They just this past, I believe it was May, and I wanted to go so bad. They ran it again at the same pub that's still standing, and dude, like he took photos. There was well over 120, 130 people there.
Yeah,
it was just a day event, just to hang out, have a drink, have a beer with one of your friends, and bring all these other... And people were just, you know, reminiscing all those old days. It would be wonderful if this HoeDown thing can be that way. I mean...
Well, we're trying, you know.
We've said it. Like Fudd's doing the first one. If it works out well and I can pull something off, I'm going to do it here at Hope. And we have ample room here to do it. We're going to
bring it up to Connecticut. You know, it's going to be one of those things where it's like... And again, and if there's another shop owner that happens to come, hangs out, and finds that it's just as... you know, inspiring and successful, and they have the room for it, you know, we can travel this around, you know, bring it to different states and stuff like that. But again, it's not a convention, it's none of that. It's just a bunch of artists who just care about the past, that really care about the future, and just want to be inspired to sit there and go, look, man, there's still heart and soul to this kind of thing. There's still camaraderie. There's still things that we can pass along to a newer generation, and that we've learned from an older generation.
I think that's something that's really important. It's about the future too. This isn't about making money. There's no admission to get in or whatever.
Open door.
You know, the idea behind this is to protect the future, because realistically, if you don't pass along, I mean, one of the biggest complaints that a lot of younger people have, especially when it comes to apprenticing and stuff like that, they feel that it's an archaic way of doing business, that there's no reason why you should have to pay for an apprenticeship, or that you should work for free for people, or whatever the fucking reasons may be. And the fact of the matter is, they're mad at the old heads because they're not willing to change. But the fact of the matter is, if those guys don't pass things down, that becomes outdated, and it's forgotten.
It's lost archives.
Yeah, it becomes lost. And I think that's an absolute shame. The Tattoo Heritage Project out of California is doing something very similar at conventions, which is a great way to reach a ton of people. You know what I mean? And make things aware. I'll try to, if I remember, put their link in the description as well. But there's a lot of things like this happening in the trade right now, and I think it's really, really important. The fact of the matter is, a lot of the things that have happened in this business, we've been pretty self-contained. You know, we used to handle all the health department bullshit on our own until the health department steps in and we lose control of that. You know, what's happening with pigments right now? You know, it's self-governed. Government's going to step in. They're going to squash that. And the amount of shops that have opened up. Those shops were not opened up by outsiders. Those shops were opened up by other tattooers because they're too fucking stupid and too greedy to just have one shop. No, they got to have 12 shops. I got to have 15 apprentices. I got to have 18 guys working my shop. I mean, it's craziness how self-destructive we can be as a trade, as a business. Most of these tattoo supply companies that were owned by tattooers, those guys sold those businesses to these conglomerates for millions of dollars in some cases. That's them that did that. They weren't forced at gunpoint to sell their businesses. They did it because they were trying to make money. Not knocking them. But things change dramatically, not because, it's because we lose control or we give it away. And that's not a healthy way. I don't think it's a healthy way for this business to continue.
I mean, I understand. Everyone needs to make a living. I get it. Not faulting anyone for that thing. But, you I can't control the weather, but I can grab an umbrella. There's a certain point to where it's like, you have to sit there and go, what power and control do I have over? It's like, all right, man, I can't change the whole idea of how everyone looks in the industry. But we can offer up an opportunity to where people might have an insight or the same kind of idea of what we're trying to do. They can meet up with this to either make it grow or help us be inspired to where it just betters it or any of that stuff. But unless we do something, nothing's going to happen. So we can sit there and bitch about it and do all this other stuff and let, all these other conglomerates take it over and just ruin the whole fucking thing. Or we find people who sit there and like, low, man, integrity still exists in the craft. I understand there are still people who are going to have no problem with it becoming this basic conveyor belt industry. Get it. There's a place for it. But doesn't mean I have to partake in it. So we're sitting there, we're like, look, man, these are the things that we loved and inspired us and help us get to as far as we've gotten. Well, we pass along this younger to the generation and the other people who are maybe still sitting at their shop or their home feeling the same way. Like, look, man, fucking, come back and inspired. Come fucking hang out. Like, we just want everyone to get together and just have, like, a good time. And, like, look, man, this was what we thought and what felt tattooing was about.
Yeah, I think it's also about it's about gleaning that little something special that you're going to get from somebody else. I mean, watching Dave Atenito down in Georgia create these signs, these paintings he's been doing with the one shots or the whatever, the alpha acrylics or whatever he's doing. I want to be there. I want to watch him do it. I want to fuck with him.
Dude, to watch Dennis McPhail still produce as much paintings as he does. Like, the guy does posters, T-shirts. Like, the dude is like a machine. He's like, watch Tony Savara. Like, you watch, that dude's knocking out, like, again, clothing lines, books, flyers, stickers. Like, the dude's
non-stop.
Is non-stop. And again, like, you see that thing, and it's like the opportunity to be able to sit there and ask, like, hey, man, how do you do it? Like, what is your method? What is your thing? And you feel that inspiring. Again, you're not going to change your whole life. Maybe, hopefully it does. But it's like you take a little bit away and you go back home, and maybe that kind of helps light that spark again to where you're like, nah, man, I do this, and let that be the thing.
I think that's a good way of putting it, too, because realistically, there's no fucking guarantee that anybody's going to walk away from this with, like, a fucking fire under their ass and wanting to do something. It could very well be overwhelming. One of the best art events that I ever took part in was IMC up in Massachusetts. And it's the Illustrator Masters class. It's mainly illustrators, people who make a living as artists, But there were a handful of tattooers there. I went with Christian, and I did, over the course of 6 days, you start a project and you hopefully finish that project. I did finish this project, did a Bride of Frankenstein. Talking to the illustrators changed the way I do a lot of things. Things I wasn't going to do, I did because it was recommended to me to do. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things. In my opinion, it was the best painting I've ever produced. And the fucked up thing about this was, when we left, after everything was said and done, you feel drained. And I don't think, I did a handful of paintings after this, but nothing to that caliber. And it can be very daunting. Like, you'll do something, you'll be fucking juiced, and then you'll get home and you'll go, I got nothing. Like, I remember when Martin, when he put together that book, one of the books, he didn't paint for a long time. Fucking Christian, he'll get together, he did the same thing, goes to the fucking IMC, starts something, never finished it, and then comes home and he's wiped for like 6 months, doesn't paint, maybe does something else. But it is a crazy phenomenon.
But that's the ebbs and flows of being an artist. It's like, you go through these giant waves to where it's like you produce, you feel creative, and then all of a sudden you hit the top of the mountain, and all of a sudden it's like you find yourself at the bottom again. You're like, what the fuck, man? Like, don't feel creative, don't feel this, I feel burned out, like everything's gone. But like, that's the idea, is like every once in a while having stuff like this swing back around to where it's like you get inspired again. Right. You get to meet these artists. Like you said, you done things, you took it a different approach, you had a different perspective because you talked to these guys. And that's not to say that they're not going through and dealing with the same shit you are.
Yeah.
But when they came there, they're like, look, dude, watch this guy produce this, painting. Took a couple of words that I said to heart, and he came back, and I was like, holy shit, he did it. Didn't think it would add that. He just added his style and flavor to it. Maybe he'll go back and lead with that thing.
But that's the thing. I think that's I think that's maybe one of the issues we suffer from because we've been doing this for over 30 years. We have the mentality as tattooers that client comes in, they ask for something, you do it. And I think what's gotten me in a bit of a bind creatively is the fact that when people stop asking you for what you're creating, your style, whatever. Because, the fact of the matter is I'm still putting out flash, I'm still putting out images that I want to tattoo. Because people ask you that all the time, what do you want to do? Dude, there's a lot of it on my Instagram. There's a lot of it in my sketchbooks, whatever. So when people stop asking, and then you start getting into the mindset of like, well, the client's through the door, he wants a St. Michael. I'm doing a St. Michael. And a lot of times, and this is something, and I'm sure there are going to be people arguing with me with this, I come from Long Island, okay? I tattooed a lot of New Yorkers. I tattooed a lot of New Yorkers for a long time. I cannot even begin to tell you how many St. Michaels I've done. To the point where I've done some of those. In the beginning, it was always, I'm going to draw my own version. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I have dozens of those out there in the world. Like, no exaggeration, dozens. And then it gets to a point where it's like, well, this is the one he wants. I'll find a better one than this, and I'll just do that. Knowing full well it's been tattooed a million times. To me, certain things like that, Christ heads, a lot of stuff like that, it literally comes down to the point of like, well, I'm just going to give him the best that I can find because I can't redraw this again. What you bring to the table then is the style in which you do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do it like verbatim because that's been done verbatim by a million people. So you do your own version of it. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, fuck you, dude. Like, you got to always draw something. Draw that fucking thing 30 fucking times. Tell me what you end up with on the 30th time.
Yeah.
And again, maybe you're that creative. Whatever.
Good on you.
Or you're most likely one of those people that you're going to do once and never want to do it again. So there's that too. So I think we get into the mindset of like, client comes in the door, this is what they fucking want, I'm here for the client, I'm going to do what they want. It's the same argument that a lot of people have when we argue about the tiny little script, or we argue about the micro tattoos, and the argument that they have is, well, just give the client what they want. And I'm like, no. There's got to be a line that you simply go to and say, no, I don't want to do a bad tattoo. Yeah. I'll do the same tattoo over and over and over again. I came from a flash shop. That's something you did. But when it comes to doing a bad tattoo, just because the client wants it doesn't necessarily mean he should get it. And again, if they really want it, there's countless people out there. They're going to get it. Yeah, they're going to do it.
People look at it like, I don't give a shit about the integrity and longevity of it. They're like, just pay me. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
There's that. But again, that's the teeter-totter of like finding that balance of like understanding of like the client is asking you for a service and asking for something. But it's up to you as a professional to tell them like, look, with my years of experience and what I've done, here's our happy medium. You get what you want. I'm going to do something for you that is going to hold up over time. This is the proper way of doing it because, trust me, I've heard your speech. I've heard this thing, and then 2 fucking weeks later, you're like, dude, it's gone. You're like, well, shit, it was white ink on the inside of your fucking finger with a fucking single needle. Yeah, you seen it on Pinterest. Didn't mean that, that photo on Pinterest lasts forever, but on skin, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So let's fucking do it in black. Maybe not on the fucking inside of your fucking finger. They're like, well, my friend has it done. You're like, there's always going to be that one out of a fucking million people are like, yeah, that's that fucking one person that it did all right on. Yeah. But you fucking put up the other people like, didn't fucking hold up.
Well, I think it's also, too, it's the way in which it's done. And, it's crazy. We see so many rules being broken now. You know what I mean? And every now and again, something will come down the pipe that you'd be like, well, that's 5 years old. Good for you, man. Yeah. But that's not the average. And that's, I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, especially from our generation, is the fact that people say, well, you just can't do it. And our response is, no, it shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, people are doing it. You know, they are out there doing it successfully for the most part. You know, so it comes down to the fact that you could look at it from the perspective of, you know what, I won't do it because I'm not going to do as good of a job as that other guy. By the way, when he tattoos you, he's going to charge you $1,500 for that much work. You know, so it is a slippery slope, and I think I've come to the point now where I'm just so beaten down and defeated by the masses of what's going on in the industry now that I just simply go, yeah, cool, whatever, dude. You know?
Yeah, but I think that's a lot of what we're saying is that, you know, we're almost like chasing circles now. Is
literally, yeah, chasing circles.
You can't change the mentality of everyone, but I can build the foundation of what I want people to know for is like, look, solid tattooing, you know, camaraderie, art, and everything else like that. I think what it is trying to find that happy balance of like, look, man, this is what I feel it should be done. This is how it's done. You know, for longevity, this is my experience that I've experienced, you know, like that throughout my career I found that has made the most sense. And again, open-minded enough to understand there's a younger generation that could add to my artistic arsenal for me to grow.
Right.
Open-minded about that. But there's a certain point where I look at it like, nope, that no matter what is just not going to fucking work. Yeah. You know, like, you know, trying to tell me that, no, AI should fucking build a tattoo machine to put it in the fucking mall because that's fucking good. You're like, shut the fuck up.
Oh, I just posted a thing today about that tattoo, that black dot tattoo machine.
Fuck. No.
You don't want to go down that road?
Fuck that road. I don't. Burn that fucking road. Set dynamite to it. But put the troll on everything. Light that thing on fire. Fuck that thing.
The worst part is, you know that there's going to be a draw for it. There's going to be.
There's people out there fucking, you know, still smoking fucking crack and fucking doing fucking meth and shit like that. Yeah, it's not going to stop. People are going to be stupid. I get it.
Yeah.
There's a fucking, you know, people are just going to do dumb shit.
Yeah.
That's the fucking word. You can't fix stupidity.
Yeah,
it is what it is. There is for everything. But, again, I don't need to be a part of that thing. You know, I still want to do things to where I want to be inspired. I want to be around people who inspire me. I want to keep the integrity of the craft going. I want to surround myself by that. And I want to, you know, pass the torch along to someone else who looks at it the same way, going, look, this is what we can do. Don't let it die out. Keep the flame fucking lit. Here's where it's going to go. Now, the other shit, it's happened, man. Yeah. It's not fucking going nowhere. It's going to still be there. But doesn't mean that everyone needs to walk that path.
The fact of the matter is this is our contribution to hopefully making a better future for the business. You know what I mean? Or at the very least, just for our friends and the people we get to meet at this thing.
And dude, again, honestly, part of me is doing it selfishly. I want to be around people that inspire me. Like, all the things that I kept bitching about and everything like that, of like, dude, back in the day, it's like, man, it's like, why does every one of my conversations have to start out that way? It's like, well, what did I like about back in the day? You know, what was the main things that made me so happy about going to shows, to be going to, you know, guest spots and stuff? It's like, well, it's the friendship, the camaraderie, it's the inspiration. You're like, well, that shit can still exist. You could either sit there and hope that it's going to happen or fucking do something about it. And to me, that's the foundation of, you know, art. You can sit there and wish the fucking painting would get done, but you got to fucking do it. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to fucking tighten up your boots and fucking just forward momentum. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. And that's the whole thing about trying to create this thing of like, we've been talking about this shit, and it's not something that just came up. Dude, we've been talking about this for the past 15 years. Yeah. And at a certain point, we're like, dude, fuck, we got to pull the trigger. Like, stop bitching about it, be about it. And now it's like, we're going to try. We're going to see what comes of it. We're going to take a shot. And hopefully, hope for the best. That it's like we have people that also see the same vision that we do, and that we can continue to grow from it. You know.
So let me ask you. We'll start winding it down. What's on your radar, with the exception of the HoeDown, which is happening in August, the end of next month? What's on your radar? Like, tell people what you got going on over the next.
Well, we got the HoeDown coming up at Flood Shop in Kettering, Ohio, at Anchorhead, and directly from there, we're driving over to Lenore, North Carolina, to the Chris's show, and then from there, I'm heading home, and I'm gonna start planning on another trip to either come back up here to Connecticut, do another guest spot up here, and doing another shot out over at at Flood Shop. But I'm gonna start traveling again. My kids are older, everything is like that. I think I'm gonna start doing something to where maybe once a month or once every other month, I'm gonna start visiting different places again, just to kind of feel inspired and try to hope keep passing that thing along to where it's like I want to be back around inspirational people again, right. and doing that. We got the Heritage Show coming up down the thing.
So I was going to say a couple of the shows we're doing together. So we're both doing the HoeDown the weekend of that particular thing, because the HoeDown takes place Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're doing the Lenore convention that weekend, which is Labor Day weekend. After that, the end of September, I go to Maryland. I can't remember the name of the show. I'll have all the information in the description below.
Middle of September, I'm heading back to Canada to Ash and Will's show. Like, again, another small show. The camaraderie there, the people there, everything is amazing about it. I enjoy it. It's like I think I enjoy a lot more smaller shows because it gives a sense of like people still being able to talk to each other, still people to hang out with each other. It's like it's that fun part about conventions as opposed to something that's so ginormous to where it's like, dude, it's so overwhelming, like none of it was really worth it. It's like I didn't talk to anybody, didn't see anybody. It took me 45 minutes just to walk from the door to my booth,
right, exactly.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just I want to go back to the grassroots things of the things that inspired me again.
So, well, like I said, I'll be in Maryland, which is very similar to Chris's show in Lenore. I'll put the information down. The weekend after Maryland is Tony Rommel's Tattoo Society magazine in Brooklyn.
Try to make that.
I'm hoping that Jimmy and I are going to work together, but I'll definitely be there. Tony's got a great idea. Is trying to bring back what the original New York convention was like. Smaller venue, a lot more cozy, a lot more intimate, I guess. The weekend after that is the Heritage Convention, which we're working together. Yep. I do know that the week before, and this is why I kind of want to get you out here for Tony's show as well. I think Nico, and again, Nico said he was going to come out to Hope, but he's supposed to work here for a couple of days before we go to Brooklyn because he's going to be in New York for a day or two. Yeah. So I'm going to remind him. And now that I've put it on tape, he's going to have on out there in the ether. Yeah. He might have to come now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it. So, is there anything else you want to drop?
No, man. I think again, it's just another kind of just an artistic rant, and hopefully, it's not us bitching about everything, man. We're just it's the passion that we're just talking about of like what we want to get back to a lot of things and pass it along, So, again, I enjoyed coming up here. Everyone here, always an amazing hospitality. Even just the people around this town, it was enough that it just got me out of a funk to where it's like I'm going back home to where it's like fuck yeah, man, like that's what it was a recharge button, the reset button. Yeah,
that's cool. Oh, thank you very much for coming out. I had a blast. Alethea and I are both going to miss you.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our rants, and know that it comes from a place of passion. I will have everything we discussed in the description below. I really hope some of you guys can make it out to Ohio. Whether or not you can make it out to the Lenore convention, these are all great events that we're going to be taking part in. Yeah. And the reason why we keep doing them is because we feel very strongly about the people putting them on and the people who attend them. Having said that, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I'll see you when I see you.
Take care.